My name is Tom Mowlam. I'm Director of Operations at Ubiquity Press. But I'm not here to tell you about Ubiquity Press. I'm here to tell you about an important campaign that we'd like you all to get involved with called Think, Check, Submit. It's actually part of the original sort of strapline. Think, Check, Submit was based on Stop, Look, Listen as well, so it's sort of deliberately conflated in a way. So Think, Check, Submit is a campaign to help researchers identify trusted journals for their research, and the idea is to provide a simple checklist that researchers can use to assess the credentials of a journal or publisher before choosing whether to submit to it. And the campaign, which is launching in about 2 weeks, is a cross-industry initiative to help tackle the rise in questionable publishing practices and improve the quality of the academic literature. So why is it needed? Well, more research is being published worldwide in new journals which are being launched every week, and stories of publisher malpractice are on the rise. For example, charging publication fees but then not doing any peer review, setting up journals which have got incredibly similar names to existing journals, or creating editorial boards without the editorial board members being aware or consenting to their presence on the editorial board. And it can be challenging for researchers to find up-to-date guidance when choosing where to publish. So researchers are interested in their reputation, in communicating their results, and their work remaining a permanent part of the academic record. And the implications of publishing in the wrong journal can be significant. The journal they publish in may have such a low profile that their peers may not read or cite their work. The paper may not be properly indexed or archived, and their peers may not have a chance to read it. And potentially, if there's no preservation strategy, if the publisher switches the journal off, then that publication could potentially be lost forever. The quality of the paper that's published may suffer because the work hasn't been properly edited or reviewed, and the researcher's reputation may be damaged by association with a poor quality journal. So the key focus of the campaign is to prompt researchers to stop and think before they submit to the journal, and to consider, is this a trusted journal which they're submitting to, and is this the best journal for their work? And we provide a simple checklist for researchers to use before submission. The full checklist is available on the website, which is not fully live, it's very beta. And there are around 8 to 10 main checks, including things such as, do you or your colleagues know about the journal? So have you read any of the articles, or has it been recommended by colleagues? Can you easily identify and contact the publisher? Is their name clearly displayed on the journal website? Do they publish other journals that you know? Can you contact them by telephone, email, or post? Do you recognize the editorial board? So have you heard of the editorial board members? Do the editorial board mention the journal on their own personal website? And is it clear what fees will be charged? Is it clear what those fees are, what their fees are for, and when in the process they're going to be charged? And is the peer review policy clearly stated? Does it offer pre-publication peer review or post-publication peer review? So we want researchers to be confident their chosen journal will have a suitable profile, with a better chance of gaining citations, that their paper should be indexed, archived, and preserved, that it should be easily discoverable, and they should expect a professional publishing experience where the work is reviewed and edited properly, and only then should they submit their article. So the campaign is just starting out. The website is up at the moment. It has the full checklist. It is, like I said, very much in beta. And it's going to be built into a helpful resource for researchers. And we're going to use your feedback, community's feedback, to help shape the campaign going forward. So we're keen to hear what people think, what are your experiences, what do you need to know, and you can submit questions via email. We're also going to be presenting the campaign at COASP next week, at STM on the 13th of October, in Frankfurt, and probably other STM events as well. And as I said, the campaign launches officially in about 2 weeks. It's been supported by a coalition from across scholarly communications in response to discussions about deceptive publishing practices. And the supporting organisations range from publishing associations like ALPSP, OASPA, STM, publishers of different sizes, research library associations like LIBO and SPARC, indexes like DOAJ and ISSN, and other organisations like INASP who improve the quality and access to research information in developing countries. And we're delighted that more organisations are coming on board all the time, but this isn't really about any one particular group. The campaign is intended to be inclusive, and the primary focus is to provide information that helps researchers find journals which they can trust with their work. So we'd like you to get involved, and here are a few of the things which you can do right now. Researchers can use the checklist and tell us what you think. Librarians, add the checklist to your faculty resources, and when a researcher comes to ask where they should publish, then you can use that checklist. Publishers, check your author guidelines and help spread the campaign to your editors and to your users. And everyone, visit the website and sign up for updates. And you can ask me questions now too, in real life, and give me your feedback about the campaign. Is it something which you consider is important, something which you're going to help us support, or if you've got any experience of any of this dodgy publishing practice? Not, I don't mean experience of doing dodgy publishing practice, but if you've got any sort of stories you'd like to share of other people doing it. So thank you.
Hi Tom,
Hi
it's
Tasha.
Tasha. Nice to see you again. Have you linked up with Beall's List at all? Because I know it's one of the places that a lot of researchers go to find out which journals might be dubious, and is that part of the checklist?
It's not part of the checklist. I'm obviously very, very aware of Beall's List, as all publishers are, making sure the journals don't appear there. But Beall's List, we're definitely going to reach out to Geoffrey Beall. It's a blacklist of journals, which is not going to be fully comprehensive. There are journals launching all the time. So what our intention is to do is to give the researchers tools where they can basically educate them so they can identify any new journal that's just popped up, even if Geoffrey Beall hasn't had the chance to put it onto his list yet. But yeah, there are various different initiatives which are sort of coming up around now. There's another one, Coalition for Publishing Resources, and the idea is that we can reach out to them. I think we're all pulling in the same sort of direction, and yeah, make it sort of very inclusive.
Yeah, quick point, Carver from River Valley. Quick point on that. I think it's time we blacklist Geoffrey Beall's blacklist, to be honest with you. He's going a bit too far, and he's one man with his own very specific viewpoint. So I think we should just ignore that list.
Yeah, I think it's not always necessarily clear as well what his criteria are for selecting a journal to appear on the list, or for not including on the list in some cases. And it's possible from discipline to discipline that your definition of what a sort of trusted journal is may differ as well. So it's really up to the researchers to make their own mind up as to whether that journal is right for them, rather than someone else necessarily sort of creating the definitive list.
So Ian Russell from Bioscientifica. This is clearly a problem that needs to be addressed, and I very much welcome this initiative. It does have the danger, if I may say so, of appearing a bit patronising, though. Publishers telling authors things that, frankly, they probably should already know. Have you thought, and just turning the idea of a blacklist on its head, other organisations use, or other industries use whitelists for this sort of thing, but have you thought about turning this into some kind of kite mark or quality assurance stamp for a particular journal that meets the criteria?
Yes, we have, and there are a couple of whitelists out there at the moment, or sort of like ideas for whitelists that are being created. The issue again then is that you have to check every single journal in order to kind of create this whitelist if you're going to be comprehensive. There could be very high costs associated with it. You've got to deal with if a journal is kind of borderline whitelist or not whitelist, and appeals that might be associated with that. So it's not something that's been ruled out for the future, but there's definite kind of scaling and cost sort of implications with that. And just because a journal obviously is not on the whitelist does not mean it's a journal that you shouldn't submit to as well. And so that's why we feel that giving the researchers the kind of tools to identify it themselves is probably the way to go. But I appreciate it's not as efficient for them in a way as creating a sort of kite mark that's going to be stamped there.
Have you done anything with COPE at all? Because that seems like an obvious potential partner for you, particularly in relation to what Ian was just suggesting. Maybe some sort of collaboration there might work.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea. They're not on our list at the moment, but the list of partners is growing very quickly.
Have you any idea of the? I'm sorry, I'm here.
Thanks. Sorry.
John Ingalls from Cold Spring Harbor. I have no idea what the scale of this problem is as far as researchers are concerned. I hear publishers talking about it all the time, but I never hear scientists talking about it.
Scientists probably, in a lot of ways, don't want to talk about it if they've been caught by it. And it's where the problem is, as far as the research is concerned, maybe sort of spread out into different communities. So people in the developing world potentially publishing in what they can perceive to be established Western journals that have a London, New York type of address, but are actually run from somewhere else. So there is an aspect of people not wanting to talk about the bad experience which they themselves have had. But there's enough evidence out there to see that it is a very significant problem. Directory of Open Access Journals recently cleansed all of their journals which were in their database, and I think, and don't quote me, oh my God, it's being recorded, but I believe that it was something like 7% of the journals that they removed because they didn't meet their sort of publishing ethical standards.
Unfortunately, we've come towards the end of our time for this session, so I hope the discussions will continue over lunch and during the breaks. And I just want to thank all of our speakers today and say thank you again to Tom. And I say I'm sorry we didn't have time to answer all of the questions, but do collar our speakers during the break. So thank you to our speakers.